7.9. Heart with the story gets even worse.
Today announced plans to bring AM stereo to Concho Valley. Jim Thomas reports.
Approximately 10% of the AM radio stations nationwide has converted to the latest innovation, stereo.
If there was ever a semi-failed relic of the 80s, it would be the notion of stereo sound and or greater frequency response on AM radio. The most shocking part of all is that, as of the making of this episode, there are still apparently 42 functioning commercial AM stereo radio stations in the US, specifically of the CQAM variety. CQAM being the de facto US standard since 1983 and official standard since 93. Now, in researching this little project of mine, I've found various off-air recordings, which I deliberately avoided listening to, but save for an off-mic recording via a mono radio on Shango 066's channel, nothing dates to after 2018. Somewhat alarmingly, the last manufactured AM stereo radios that I can find rolled off the line sometime in the mid to late 2010s, while the more homebrew units seem to be on some kind of unspoken and indefinite hiatus. The last US vehicles with AM stereo decoders seem to roll off the line back around the turn of the millennium. This begs the question, is AM stereo on its deathbed?
7.9. Heart with the story gets even worse.
CCO is the third AM station in the Twin Cities to begin broadcasting in stereo.
If I may, let me back up for a minute to give a little context. The notion of multi-channel sound via AM radio dates almost as far back as the notion of multi-channel sound itself. Indeed, there are anecdotes flying around of radio stations attempting such things as far back as the 1920s. Of course, the first 50 years or so of experiments largely consist of the need for multiple radios tuned to adjacent frequencies. One for each audio channel. By the mid-70s, FM radio was slowly starting to take prominence over AM. As such, many traditionally AM-centric music stations, like Top 40 and Country, began bailing for FM. Yeah, the time was right to make AM competitive again. By the late 70s, 4 AM stereo contenders emerged, namely Harris Magnavox, Motorola Sequam, and Con Hazeltine. A fifth, Bellar, was already effectively dead. The Harris and Magnavox systems were folded, so to speak, into the Motorola, henceforth Sequam system, and Con Hazeltine was a distant memory by the early 90s. With that, while at its peak, most major and mid-sized markets had at least one Sequam station, but few people seemed to notice or care. And it didn't help that most radio manufacturers didn't want to put the extra parts and cost into their radios. Also, unsurprisingly, AM became mostly talk and news-based in the 90s. As such, most Sequam stations saw no need to maintain such a setup, and most reverted to plain old ultra-squished mono sound.
7.9. Heart with the story gets even worse.
As I already mentioned, there are supposedly 42 functioning Sequam stations in the US as of June of 2022. It just so works out that 2 of those are within a 4-ish hour driving distance of Archive HQ. Now, fairly recently, a high-rolling Patreon donor sent me the lovely and apparently quite sought-after Sony SRF A100 AM stereo, Sequam and Con capable, FM portable radio to do a Ben's junk on, which for contextual purposes I did make a quick one to lead up to this video. Go watch that if you haven't yet and then come back to this. Anyway, with the archive's 10th anniversary fast approaching, it seemed like the right time to go in search of AM stereo.
107.9.
Heart with the story gets even worse.
My first stop was an auto parts store for something to prop up my camcorder on, so I could shoot some B-roll while driving. But then it was off to Fairmont, Minnesota, about 125 miles from Archive HQ, so I could give a listen to KSUM 1370. Now, this is probably not going to go over too well with some viewers, but I deliberately went into this project only knowing that my radio was in good working order. From the little bit of reading I had done online, AM stereo seemed to be a bit controversial. Some say it has a weak, crappy signal, some say it stomps on adjacent frequencies, some say it's barely stereo, while others say, when done properly, it's as good as, if not better than, FM radio with no technical issues whatsoever. In the name of keeping an open mind about all this, I deliberately avoided any direct feed air checks already out there. I wanted to hear it for myself as close to unfettered as possible. Okay, I'm gonna prove my upper Midwestern metal here. Everything's being carried in a Hy-Vee bag. But anyway, just to get things established, we are currently in Fairmont, Minnesota, at just some park somewhere. And this is a Sony SRF A100 radio from probably 1983. I'll dig into it a little more elsewhere. And yes, you're going to hear wind noise and such through this. But yes, this is a fully functioning AM stereo radio. And I'll discuss that more elsewhere. But I have it tuned to one of the last CQAM AM stereo stations in the country, KSUM 1370, based out of right here in Fairmont, Minnesota. Now, they're officially a country station, but it seems to be like one song per 15 minutes or so. It's mostly talk, I've noticed, news and talk, and most of the ads are just plain voiceover, so they're not really exploiting the stereo a whole lot. And in the couple of songs I've heard, it's a very narrow stereo, but it does have an interesting, unique sound. But just to get things established here, I'll just get a little sound off mic.
Gators are, running now, so definitely some rainfall would, be a welcome thing in a lot of areas, and if we could get more than like 0.2 of an inch, that would be helpful, to get that.
Of course, it'd be plenty helpful if they actually exploited that AM stereo. So anyway, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run out of the headphone jack to my field recorder, which will pass on to the camcorder, and we'll wait for a song or some sort of add-in stereo or something to come along, and we'll finally get that first glorious taste of AM stereo, and actually the first proper one I've had in my life. So stand by.
We'll make your building tough as a Northland.
Thinking about a post-frame building for your farm? Northland Buildings offer economical protection for your farm machinery, livestock, and equipment with a 50-year snow load warranty. For your peace of mind, hurry, building schedules are filling up fast. Call 800-736-4510 or northlandbuildings.com. Built tough for the Northland.
Northland Building.
Long Prairie Packing is currently searching for first and third shift barn employees with pay scales to impress. Make $20.50 to $26.50 an hour with a company that's made for you.
In July, corn down 7, December down 21 3/4, August beans up 8 1/2, November beans also up 8 1/2, June live cattle up 112, July lean hogs down 40.
Broadcasting from the Wild Rose Casino and Resort Studios. You'd rather be here. KSUM Fairmont.
This
is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Dell Small Business.
I'm Steve Kathan, a high school football coach.
Your KSUM midday weather forecast for today: sunny skies with a high near 82. Tonight, partly cloudy, then a 30% chance of thunderstorms are expected this late evening with a low around 62. Tuesday, tomorrow, 40% chance of thunderstorms, then a 30% chance of showers in the afternoon, otherwise partly sunny with a high near 87. And Tuesday night, mostly clear skies with a low around 60. You can find out more weather information at KSUM.com.
AM 1370, KSUM, playing America's music, the best country.
But after one round with Jose Cuervo, that band was sounding pretty darn good to me.
Well, that was underwhelming. But then again, country isn't exactly known, at least post-2000 country isn't known for a good wide stereo image. So good thing I have one more stop, and that won't be till tomorrow. But since I'm here, I'm going to do a quick little A-B comparison with some so-called standard AM stations, because this has a really nice AM tuner. It can do DX mode, and I found I haven't really needed it unless I am truly trying to pull something in farther out. So I'll hook the cables back up. We'll just kind of take a quick scan through the dial, and we'll kind of compare and contrast as much as possible.
New York Times.
Occurring in place for years, Clay. My job for.
Great.
I wanted to know what is the best.
We'll post the crew
with DeKalb. Always read and follow grain marketing and all other stewardship practices and pesticide label directions.
And as money.
A year, well, not a year, thousands over a span of a few years. And I sit here and I say the city is now not to the place of safety where I could say it's fine for you to come here, don't worry. I mean, I have my own experience in Chicago as a tourist. I went to Chicago to play the chorus for a weekend. Right. And there's too much crime, okay? There's too many shootings. There's too much stuff happening. There's too much. It's not even just the stuff you read about, you know, the shootings that occur. Yeah, of course, that's horrible. That's the worst.
Well, that almost feels like a waste of time, but then again, I wasn't expecting Fairmont, Minnesota, population 10,000 and change, to be much of a radio town. Indeed, that country station seems to be the only station that I can definitively say is in town. Everything else, I think I'm still getting some Sioux Falls stations in there, some Albert Lee stuff in there. So yeah, probably not the best place to experiment, but I'm glad I did. Hopefully the best is yet to come. Now, there is a lake here. You want to go to the lake just for a moment? I will never remember the name of this park if I don't mark where I was. So yes, Gomsrud. I hope I pronounced that right, lest I piss everyone off in Fairmont. The bucolic side of Oddity Archive. If it weren't for the traffic and all the crap in the water and people's boats all over the friggin' place, and yeah, I'll take what I can get. After finishing up at the park, I started on an archive thrifting episode. Tune in next week for that. Anyway, from Fairmont, it was going to be a 3+ hour drive to the next test, thanks to some necessary backtracking. It was already pushing 3 p.m., so yeah, it was best to just head up to Mankato, about 55 miles away, and get a room. That way I could shoot a little more thrifting footage and pick up the radio stuff in the morning. Kick back and enjoy the ride. Actually, that can be said for most of the rest of this episode. Just roll with it. Good Lord, I've had dreams like this. Right down to the carpeting. So the website said something about a river view, and wonder if it's not that slough over there. Yeah. But regardless, it's better than the flea bag places I've stayed at most of my life. Actually, I wonder if that isn't the river view they were referring to. I don't know, maybe I can do seafood tonight. If there's any in there, catch your own. Why does the hotel bathroom have a bowling pin for a decoration? Whatever, at least it matches. Well, here goes my Italian cred, but hey, ladies, you could have had a date with Benny Boy at the Olive Garden. Breadsticks and Andy's mints galore.
Heart with the story gets even worse than.
Picking up around 10 o'clock the next morning, I'm off to Sauk Rapids, adjacent to St. Cloud, and yeah, still Minnesota, so I can dig WXYG, aka The Goat, a station that claims to operate in the spirit of 60s and 70s FM underground radio. In other words, my kind of station. If anything, this would be the kind of station that would be well suited to something like AM stereo. Anyway, what was supposed to be about a 2.25 hour drive wound up taking over 3 hours, thanks to detour after detour after detour. Alright, this time out I'm reporting from Sauk Rapids, I'm hoping I pronounced that right, Minnesota, so just outside of St. Cloud. Was that like 60 miles or so away from Minneapolis? And of course I thought it would be poetic if I did it at the Rapids, and I'm sitting at their little amphitheater thing here, very, very small actually, only maybe seating for 100 I'd guess. But anyway, this time we are looking at station WXYG, 540 AM and I believe 94.3 FM. And man, this is my kind of station. This is the stuff that the classic rock stations used to play 20, 25 years ago. And I've been really enjoying it since I've been here. However, I've noticed a little something when I try and listen on this radio, at least I have the AM and FM versions to bounce between. It seems to be in mono, period, and they've played plenty of songs with real good wide stereo images, but it just never quite seems to click. And it could be interesting because they, it's a lot of music, but we'll see what I can do. I'll just do a quick little live. Lou Reed at the moment. Satellite of Love. Makes sense, doesn't it? We're near Minneapolis, where they got the name for the ship for MST3K and all that. Anyway, so let me get a direct feed going here. We'll wait for some commercials to come along or just some very brief song clips, and we'll see what we get. They are apparently a CQUAM station. Everything seems to show it. But it doesn't quite seem to play that way. If anything, it plays just like, technically speaking, the station from Fairmont.
But if you have a change of heart, send it off in a letter.
From
a terrible. Difficult.
It's the only one you want. Ricky, don't lose that number.
Santana on Album Rock 540, WXYG.
Life insurance, short and long-term disability, 401k with a company match, and much, much more.
Apply today at buyerbuilt.com or send your resume to hiring@buyerbuilt.com. Buyerbuilt Woodworks, the door to your next career.
A job where literally
Thanks. You want to feel
sign-on bonus. Burnix is looking for account representatives who will support their customers, manage inventory, with 1 weekday off and some weekend work required. Insurance, PTO, and a 401k. Join us.
Your Malibu looks like a mallet dirt. You might need a Sauk's car wash. If a messy skater need a Sauk's car wash. And if you go up north and then come down south wearing half the road on your pickup truck, you might need a Sauk's car wash.
For convenient locations, automatic and self-serve. Sauk's Rapid Car Wash. Your car's gonna love you.
Yeah, I'm convinced this station is doing mono across the board. If nothing else, I did learn one thing. It's pronounced Sauk. Anyway, probably more songs. Yeah. Okay. Well, since we had water in Fairmont, since I'm here, I guess we might as well just keep things nice and consistent, and we'll take a little walk down by the water. Oh, nothing says nature like discarded Folgers cans and Dr. Pepper bottles and water bottles and stuff. But hey, if you can look past that, it's pretty and a lot louder than the rapids back home. The river, the thing, the water. I've never seen a path like this. It doesn't claim to be a bike path, but I've seen lots of other people walking on it, but who knows? Damn civilization spoken from concrete. On second thought, that there water bottle, maybe it's just trying to go home. Maybe it just feels like it needs water to go to. It needs water in it. I'm not about to help it. I'm not a good Samaritan or anything. Oh well. Yep, mono in the car too. Not that it's gonna come out here, but I feel like I've done my due diligence with this one. Yeah. The Goat, as it's known, very good station. I've been really enjoying it. But yeah, it ain't stereo. So I'm thinking the stations that have the CQAM equipment these days are just using it for more clarity purposes than anything else. So I guess that's about as far as I can push this one on my own, as far as I know. Maybe I'll come up with something before I get home. But yeah, I don't think so. I think I've done my due diligence here.
Each vehicle you see carries precious cargo, just like yours. Let's be nice and enjoy the ride. Come visit us at 3019 West Division Street, St. Cloud, or at gillilandchevrolet.com. Find your road.
And we're off to the Best Western in St. Cloud, a whopping 4 miles away from the test site.
We let the music do the talking. The GOAT. Album Rock. WXYG.
Yes, the band, that is. It's almost like what KLAK would be like if it existed more than it does. This is a 9-minute plus song. Let's see if we can get to the hotel before the song ends. Four miles, roughly.
Turner Overdrive on Album Rock 540 WXYG.
Well, it would make for a good joke that Benny Boy got this room he actually got. Think I dodged a bullet. Well, I'll be damned. Payback for all those years of Fleabag motels. And nobody tell LGR about this place. This place is wood grain heaven. Not like that very old English style. Rich Corinthian leather. Yeah, I can't do Ricardo Montalban at all. That's where I'm gonna be sitting. Oh, look at that. I could swear I was just here.
Part with the story gets even worse.
The next morning, after filling up at, and of course checking out the CB radio gear at the Love's truck stop just outside of St. Cloud, I headed for home. About a 4-hour trip with only one detour that I knew about in advance this time. Anyway, even if my trip was ultimately a bust, within the realm of what I heard, I had no great complaints about the sound quality of the two stations I heard. I mean, yeah, full stereo separation would have been nice, but the frequency response was a lot better than I was used to hearing out of AM radio. Now, as of my making this, there are 2 full, proper, wide stereo, legit AM stereo stations still operating in the US that I'm aware of. KYET, based out of Golden Valley, Arizona, and WION, based out of Ionia, Michigan, the latter of which allows you to stream a direct feed from their own receiver on their website. Having said that, I don't think my fears are unfounded about AM stereo being on its deathbed. But this experience has made me want to hear more. Hell, I'd love to find a legit Part 15 transmitter, or maybe an adapter of some sort. If any station were suited for AM stereo, it's gotta be the Archive's little intermittent KLAK. But otherwise, that is it for today's Archive. Join me next time for the thrifting stuff I did between the radio segments. And I assure you, no radios will be discussed. You're probably as sick of hearing about them as I am of talking about them. Ah, the magical, mystical land that is Pipestone. Well, that was mystical. Well, I missed the South Dakota sign, but just trust me, we're back.